I'm so happy that my ex-wife is miserable. 3 years ago, I, 48 male, found out my wife, 46 female, was having an affair. She met a guy at work and came home one day telling me she was in love with him, no longer loved me, and wanted a divorce. This was a guy she'd only known for 3 months at that time. She and I had been together since we were in our 20s, and we have 3 kids, 28 male, 26 male, and 23 female. Well, I tried to fight for my marriage and didn't want a divorce, but she simply would not stop seeing this guy. Then after one weekend where she disappeared from Friday afternoon to Sunday night, I ended up throwing her out of the house. She immediately moved in with this guy. The only excuse she ever gave me was, "I never wanted to hurt you, but there's just something about this guy, and I deserve to be happy." That was it. That was the depth of her reasoning for throwing everything we built together away. We ended up finalizing our divorce in early 2022, and although I had very hard feelings toward her, I faked it enough to get pretty favorable divorce terms from her. It seemed she was so eager to be with her dream man that she didn't have time for a long divorce. So in the end, I got to keep my pension in the house, which I had bought from my grandmother. I did have to give her half of my 401k, however. The effect on our kids was pretty devastating. All 3 of them took it very hard. My oldest son told her that if she chose this man, he'd never have a relationship with her again. And as of right now, neither of our sons has a relationship with their mother. Our daughter does talk to her from time to time, but their relationship is very strained to say the least. My daughter is a very kind person and she tries, but she usually ends her conversations with her mother even more upset than when they started. Then about 4 months after the divorce, my ex contacted me out of the blue. She told me she had made a terrible mistake and asked if she could come home. Her dream man turned out to be an alcoholic, who she says is verbally abusive and wasted all of her money. I used this opportunity to tell her exactly what I thought of her as a person, a wife, and a mother. I told her this was her life now, and to deal with it. I told her she no longer had a home in this house, and to never contact me again. Then a few things happened over the last year that have driven her to start trying to contact me again. First off, I met someone. My sister introduced me to a friend of hers who is also divorced, and she and I hit it off. We've been seeing each other since last summer, and while we agreed that neither of us wants to get married again, we are together. Once my ex heard about this, she once again tried to contact me, but I ignored her. My son also got married and didn't invite his mother. She again contacted me to try to get me to intervene on her behalf, and I told her I would talk to him, but I never did. Secretly, I feel like she deserves all the pain she's feeling when it comes to our kids. She destroyed our family without so much as an afterthought. Too bad. So sad. Now, she recently told our daughter that she finally broke it off with a dream man because she couldn't take his drinking and total lack of responsibility. He wasted her half of the 401k that I had to give her. He also totaled her car driving drunk. This from a man in his 40s. Again, she knew this guy for 3 months and torpedoed our whole family for him. On the face of it, I act like I feel sorry for her, but inside, I really delight in the fact that she's so unhappy. Call me evil or whatever, I don't care. She brought this on herself and it serves her right. I actually had to sit there one Saturday night while she got ready for a date with this guy and laughed on the phone with her friend about how awkward our living situation was. I lived in hell for over a year because of her. Wait until she finds out our son and his wife are going to have a baby later this year. Maybe if she had been able to keep her legs closed, she'd get to meet her grandchild. Enjoy your crappy 1-bedroom apartment and your broken down used car. Me and my new partner will think of you when we're on vacation in Hawaii this summer. Hawaii was the trip my ex and I always planned to take once our daughter finished college. Maybe I'll send her pictures. Now for the top comments. Unless you've been there, it is impossible to understand the mind screw that is an exit affair. Seeing the natural consequences come to fruition must be something. I hope Hawaii is amazing. And yes, it's a totally destabilizing to literally have the person you've been with since you're 20 come home from work one day and tell you they've fallen in love with someone they've only known for a few months and they want a divorce. I'm sorry if this happened to you. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. I mean, Opie tried to make it work and she was in love with some douche. The guy knew she was married and was cool with it? Nah, that's a great AA hat. She got what was coming to her. Best revenge is living well. My mom always said this. I didn't believe her until I was older. It truly is the best revenge. I always say beware the vengeance of a patient person. Life catches up to a-holes, and it's fun to watch when it does. Post the heck out of those vacation pictures. Try and get local paper to cover your trip. I legit live in a town small enough that this could definitely happen. I've observed this from another perspective, the leaving woman being, well, I wouldn't call a friend, but someone who hung out in the same crowd as I did. And they just kind of followed me around even though we're not let's meet up and do fun stuff friends. Anyway, she had a stable but, according to her, boring husband. And after almost a decade of marriage, she just wanted a little adventure. The rest follows the pattern of the story. Find an exciting man who not surprisingly had a reason why he was on the market in his 40s, divorce, alienate the family, go back to trying to relive their 20s in bars and so forth. Then come to a realization that it's a pretty empty life and that the new fun guy was like those friends who were only fun to drink with. Then get super upset that her ex-husband and the rest of the family had moved on and she was no longer invited. The kicker was that she always told herself as the victim in all this, saying she just had one tiny mistake and everyone else blew it out of proportions. Naturally, she just wanted validation and pretty much unfriended everyone on Facebook who disagreed with her being the blameless victim. Thus, so ended my connection with her as well. Sounds like you knew my ex-wife. Only difference was it was a woman she left for, but everything else in the story fits perfectly. Next story. My 41 male wife, 40 female, cheated on me with my best friend, 42 male. So, I'm now in the aftermath of the situation as she has moved out and divorce papers have been filed, but I still wake up feeling angry and betrayed every day. My wife and I had both come from previous divorces. She had cheated on her first husband. Red flag, I know. And we were a couple and lived together for nearly 8 years without being married, as neither of us really wanted to go down that road again. I got a career position with my job, however, and told her it would be smart to get married for insurance and tax purposes. She didn't think that was a great reason, but then she proposed to me a few months later. This only lasted 5 or less months, before I eventually discovered that she had started reaching out to people, sending pictures and such. The discovery process was slow. I learned that she had fooled around with a female friend. Later learned she tried to sleep with a husband too. Yet I knew that there was a man in another state that she regularly sent pictures and lewd messages to. And then I found her journal. In her journal, I saw that in October of last year, she finally did it. For 3 days straight while I was out of town for training. I confronted her and she wouldn't tell me who. I guessed the man in another state and she said yes, it was him. I also found out that on my birthday in December, she supposedly was going to a coworker's birthday party. But I noticed from text logs that she had contacted my best friend at midnight several times. It took a lot of snooping to discover everything. We had scheduled counseling. She claimed to be serious about working on it. But I discovered her Discord chats. She was cheating on me with my best friend. Regularly. On my birthday, I took said friend to a professional football game for his birthday, the day after Christmas, all the time. It continued even after we had scheduled counseling, after my friend knew we were trying to work on it. There's so many more details, but she agreed to a divorce and has since moved out. I have to pay her thousands of dollars to get her off the deed to the house, so I guess it's a lose-lose for me, but I'm trying to move forward. I guess I'm posting this here because even though I scheduled counseling in December, it doesn't start until next month. 3 total families affected minimum, all with children. I'm not sure if there's more, and I fear I will lose my relationship with my stepdaughter because of all this. I just want the hate out of my heart at this point. But for right now, if either of you are reading this, screw you, and you deserve each other. Edit. Yes, I know. Marrying a prior cheater was stupid. Believe me when I tell you that I loved her up to and even after the point that I had discovered she cheated. She led me to believe that I was her world for 8 years, prior to getting married, and I was foolish enough to believe it. Only in the end did I realize how easily she could lie to me. Work out. Get a hobby. Ditch the friend. Best revenge is living a better life. Very much this. But logic often evades us in times of great emotional distress, and this is a double betrayal. The hate will take time and effort to dissipate. My ex is in her late 40s and living with her parents. I am 3 years older than her and I'm retiring in 3 years. My mama cheated on my dad 25 years ago, has been penniless since, and she finally lost her trailer because she preferred to sit on her butt all day for decades. Now she lives with me and I freaking hate it. Especially since me and my fiancé worked our butts off to afford to rent a nice townhouse in BC. and she takes up a third of it. I have been in your situation, and it is tough. You have some work ahead of you, else you'll never escape. It is that dire. This situation will consume you and destroy your relationship with your fiancé if you let it. You must deal with your mother and keep your fiancé out of it as much as possible. There is a reason we don't have as many father-in-law jokes. You must set goals and boundaries. Some of them must not depend on your mother at all. If you can't stand up to her, then you need to move to a new small place where she can't follow. Be prepared to make sacrifices here, else you're stuck with her. Lie to her and tell her the tiny new place is all you can afford. Rents are going up like crazy, and you can't house her. The evil landlord only allows 2 adults, etc. Don't let her guilt you. You are the next easiest option. If she can't live off you, she will find someone else. I got my mother to move out by mandating that she go to a psychiatrist, for which I would pay as a condition for her to continue living with me. She'd finally moved out. She was diagnosed as bipolar after 20 years of using my sister and me financially and emotionally. I know why our other 3 siblings want no contact with her. As narcissistic as this sounds, when my ex-boyfriend cheated on me with my ex-best friend, I just try to keep reminding myself that their actions are proof that I am better than them. My morals are at a higher standard. I treat people I care about better than them. I am honest and would never hurt others the same way they did me. Suffice to say, they are truly beneath you. Almost everyone who cheats has something wrong with them. Maybe they're insecure. Maybe they're mentally unwell. Maybe they're bad at managing their romantic relationships. But regardless, cheating is not the actions of a well-adjusted, emotionally mature adult. You're better than them. Remember that. Last story. My ex-wife changed to a different person when we moved to her hometown. We were divorced 12 months later. My ex-wife, 36 female, and I, 36 male, met when we were 25. We were plucky, ambitious people, trying to be better versions of ourselves. We each were flawed, but we help each other become stronger, and each patch the other's weakness. 10 years later, we moved to her hometown. We had visited before. I get along okay with her family members. The move was supposed to be temporary and short, before moving to another country. But now we were part of the environment she grew up in. I felt suddenly she became a different person. As the youngest in a big family, she basically stopped making any decisions, and instead pushing for what her older siblings recommended. Slowly, it was like she felt like she didn't need to lift a finger to get anything anymore. There was always a family member to help out. But when we were alone, it became for me to cook, drive her around, take out the trash, etc. Because in my family, we do things for each other. I shouldn't even need to ask you. Suddenly, it was important that we show up to parties with her high school friends. These are people I hardly knew, but it's expected that we attend. It would be embarrassing if we don't. They'll be hurt. When we met, we were going to help each other be better people so that we can then help other people. I helped her gain skills. She helped me gain confidence and assertiveness. And then suddenly, what's important became the opposite. It was about what other people think. It was about talking and showing rather than doing. And my needs became secondary. This became evident when she made the decision that she now wanted to live in this town permanently. Maybe it had always been like this, but I swear that being back in the place she grew up, with all the old relationship patterns, behavior, and mindset, was too much of a change for me to see. I felt like someone I loved, with all her precious values and goals that I admired, was being usurped and slowly being erased. In the early days of living there, I said out loud jokingly, "It's like you are regressing to a younger version of you." 1 year later, it wasn't so funny to me anymore, but no one seemed to see it. Perhaps her family and friends only ever saw this version of her, or perhaps I was wrong in what I thought I saw all these years. I still like to think, though, that it was because of the place, that it changed her into the patterns of her younger self. And one day, if she ever moves away, the woman I knew and admire will emerge again. And then the reason for me leaving will be validated for everyone, for her, and for myself. Edit. I just want to add this detail so that I can let it go as well. I mentioned that throughout our relationship, she had helped me with my assertiveness. One of the things that made me lose hope was when she said, "I know that you're learning to set your boundaries, but when it comes to my family, this is not the time." I've always admired both of her parents, especially her dad, a kind, hard-working, generous man. Since moving, I saw up close a subtle dynamic in which he was doing all the heavy lifting for his wife, and children as well. I saw that his wife was taking him for granted. My husband will do it, etc. My ex-wife saw this and criticized her mom for it. but I could feel the behavior creeping into her, and hence our relationship. Another thing that made me lose hope was when we had her family over for dinner, and she was like, "Cook the food, serve the food, where are the cutleries? What did you get everyone for dessert?" It was the way she treated me in front of everyone. That was one of the last days. Some people, when surrounded by their family, can revert back to that childlike state of mind depending on their home life growing up, especially if they're being enabled. While it would be upsetting for you to have to bear it, I think you've done the right thing for yourself. You're only 36 from your post, and you've still got a lot of life left in you. If my uncle, who's around the same age as you, and has absolutely no social media whatsoever, can get a date, then so can you, if that's what you're wanting. Just don't ever feel guilty for choosing yourself. Oof, this is me when I'm with my family. I revert back to my teen years when my mom did everything. Mind you, I'm a stay-at-home mom that literally does everything for the house. I don't know. My mom enjoys it though, so I let her. It's also nice for me to have someone take care of me for a change in a maternal way. It makes me feel good. It sounds like she was babied her whole life as the youngest child, moved out and was forced to become independent. And now that she's back in that environment, she's reverted back to that mindset as her default. She believes she deserves to be babied and catered to. Otherwise, the whole family does things for each other would apply to both of you, not just you becoming the de facto adult of the situation, while she doesn't do her part to cook or clean. Not sure if it's something she's fully aware of, but if you've tried to talk to her about it and nothing has changed, I think you are well within your rights to divorce, as the qualities you valued in her are no longer present.